Welcome back. Stas23 here, back again with some knife therapy. And today I have one coming from the Brass Brigade called the Grant Gripper. First saw this knife in its custom form and I fell in love with it. I thought it was a beautiful design. I love the Wharncliffe blade shape. They're very handy for utility type cutting, and if you do a lot of breaking down boxes, Warnies are excellent. Very powerful blade shape right there. These are on a pre-order right now. That's why I did this video quickly, because the pre-order will be closing on February 17th, 2022, depending on when you see this. That's why I left the year in there. They're coming in at $320. You can get it in this variant with the satin blade and the raw titanium, as it's called, or all blacked out, murdered out PVD coating. Let's get into it so y'all can try to see if this is something you might be interested in. The OEM for this knife was Bestech, and they do some absolutely amazing work, and it definitely shows in this knife. Let's get the specs out of the way. You have an overall length of 8 5/8 inches, so it's in that medium to large size. You have a blade length of 3.6 inches with a 3-inch cutting edge. You have a grip area without the choil from here all the way to the back of 4.1 inches, and with the choil all the way to the back of 5.6 inches. You have an average thickness in the scales of 0.5 inches and a close width in the pocket of a manageable 1.47 inches. You have a blade stock thickness 0.148, so you got a nice chunky stock there, and a nice hollow grind on here. It's a very shallow hollow grind, but it comes down to a nice thin edge at 14 thousandths at the cutting edge, sharpened at 23 degrees per side. All right, let's take a close look at this. You have a nice, attractive Wharncliffe blade shape with a belt satin on the primary that's going vertical, and then horizontal on the flats. Very, very attractive, if you like Wharncliffes, that is. You have a nice forward finger choil right there that fits my finger perfectly, and I think it would fit even fat sausage fingers if I had to take a wild guess there. Nice and comfortable, because your finger kind of lands in this spot more where you have that, pad basically to put your finger. You have dual fullers on both sides, and there's like a blasted finish into the fuller. You have a full length row of jimping that ties in with the overall aesthetics of the knife. I think it visually looks nice. And you have a very, very aggressive, acute point right there for any kind of piercing tasks, like into those potato chips, or doing those drag cuts where you want to just use that tip. And also if you wanted to dig out a splinter, you definitely should be good there. Very, very nice point there. Definitely not going to want to do any side-to-side motions with this in any material, because you'd probably snap off that tip fairly easily. The blade steel on the knife is Bowler M390, and Bestech does an excellent job with their heat treat on M390, and it definitely showed in the cutting that I did with this knife. Let's close it up and talk about the action. The action is nice and snappy, comes out nice and crisp whenever you break that detent. It's riding on ceramic bearings and a ceramic detent ball. It's not a free dropper, but give it a few shakes and it'll go down. Now, this is a prototype, so I expect the final form of the knife to be even more dialed in. Mainly why this is not total free dropper is, one, because the blade, the Warney blade's a little bit lighter, and because you do have a little bit more lock bar tension that is creating more pressure against the blade, so it's not able to fall down very fast, which is fine. Just give it a few shakes and it'll go back into its home. The overall performance in the blade through all the testing was, I think, excellent, especially knowing that there was several people who used this knife before me, and I mean it still has that factory edge. They may have stropped it like I did, but you know, that said, it performed outstanding, and it still has a nice, it still has a nice sharp edge on it. I stropped it up after all the testing, and there's no damage to the edge that I can feel, and it's still nice and sharp. So that's testament to Bestech's heat treatment. All right, let's close it up and move on to the hardware. You have T8 throughout the knife. You have a T8 pivot. It's not countersunk. It's just raised up just a little bit. It doesn't bother me any. You also have a gold anodized pivot collar right there that gives it that nice little added flair to it, little pop of color. I think it's very tasteful in this T8. Like I said, on the body, you have a hidden screw in the pocket clip. Very, very nicely done there. I like that. And let's move to the scales. You have just a flat scaled titanium knife with a nice milled chamfer going all the way around to soften those edges. And if you look at this knife, there is so much milling to this knife. I bet you each one of these takes a good while on the mill, because you have all this jimping that's milled out. You have the outer that's milled out. Then you can come to this blasted, tumbled frag pattern. And then you have a faux bolster up here in the front. And I love the aesthetics of it. It is pleasing to my eye. And I know a lot of other people had enjoyed that as well. I like the frag pattern. I think it's very attractive. It adds some grip to the knife. And then if you look up here, you have pretty much a full-length backspacer that's a little bit raised. It's not uncomfortable in the grip, and it's got that geared pattern on there. And it also matches with the blasted frame clip, and you know, all of it ties in together nicely. The hardware ties in with the blade. I think they did a great job with you know, blending everything in together. Now, the reason why I'm guessing they went with almost a full-length backspacer, besides giving it that, you know, tie into the frag pattern right here, but also that allows you to get that Wharncliffe blade buried into the handle as much as possible and not have to worry about getting cut in the closed position. So that's nicely done there as well. Also, once you flip the knife, you have a landing pad that is milled out into the titanium. That's a very nice added touch that you usually see on the higher end knives like this one. Now, with all this milling on here, I was worried that the edges of the frag pattern and this raised geared backspacer right there, I was afraid that whenever I was cutting, it was going to just tear into my hands. But Bestech did a good job of, you know, putting that chamfer right on the edges of those, and then the stone washing helped knock the peaks off. So the only time that I really even felt this where it was a little bit uncomfortable is just whenever I started bearing down and putting as much pressure as I could into slicing into the wood. And that's why I do that. And most every knife that I test, whenever I start bearing down, it starts to get uncomfortable. But I did start feeling just right up in here, you know, when I put the most pressure into it. Nothing that bothered me enough to where I, you know, thought it was a deal breaker, because, you know, spoiler alert, I've already got in on the pre-order because I like the knife that much. Every grip was pretty comfortable. The saber grip, really comfortable. This, like I said, was my sweet spot right here. This grip's even really comfortable. And the only one that I didn't find to be that comfortable is the reverse grip, and it's just the way the handle's set up. You could definitely use it in this manner if you'd like to, but it's not as comfortable, say, as a knife that the slant was in the opposite direction for the thumb. So not something that bothers me any, but, you know, if that's the way you like to use your knives all the time, then maybe so. All right, we're going to take a look at the knife in the pocket. We have a tip up right hand carry, pocket clip only. It goes in the pocket decent. It's got a good enough ramp, but as you can see how it's getting stuck up right there. It's probably going to be a pocket shredder because of the grip, because of that texture underneath the pocket clip. Once you get it pushed, you can get it in there. But I would have definitely liked to see, it would have been nice to see a flat square that doesn't have any texture just underneath that pocket clip, a little bit behind, so it's not grabbing onto the pocket. But it does hold it in nicely. I didn't get any hot spots from the clip. It's nice and softened all the way around. There's no pokey spots. All this is soft. Nice job on the finishing work for sure, but that's just something to note there. Now, talking about the pocket clip, I noticed it did carry well. The way you got this flat back, it sits along the side of the pocket, and then you don't have any protrusion sticking out on the knife so when you're putting your hand in there alongside of it, you don't have anything sticking out to protrude, because that flipper tab, as you can see, is pretty much the same. It's not sticking out past the back side of the scale. So nicely done there, but you will feel it in the pocket. It is a little weighty. That said, there is internal milling in there, so they tried to do their best to keep the weight down. Now, it is well balanced. The balance point is right there in the choil area, so it feels light in the hand. In the pocket, it is, like I said, a little chunky. Let's check out the weight. All right, let's see what I was talking about there. 5.65 ounces. Now, to me, that's not unmanageable or anything, but you will definitely realize you have a knife in your pocket, or at least I did for sure. All right, let's check out the lockup. It's sitting at, I'd say, around 40%. Good access to the lock bar, because the lock bar sticks up a little bit past, and you have this cutout right here. Also, that chamfer to make it nice and comfortable to disengage the lock. Very easy to get to it. No problem whatsoever. When I say absolutely no play, I mean this thing is bank vault, no up or down, no side to side. Very, very nice lockup on here, and like I said, you have that extra lock bar tension that even helps out that lockup even more. And something else while we're talking about lock that I enjoyed, like I said, I love the frag pattern, and I like that they mimicked it on this side as well, and I like how they integrated the frag into the lock bar relief right here, as you can see. So nicely done there. You do have a hardened stainless steel lock bar insert that also acts as an over travel. I don't know if you can see that little tab right there behind it, so that keeps you from pushing the knife too far that direction and unspringing your lock bar. All right, let's do some size comparisons. I'm going to start off with 4 common knives. You have the Ontario Rat 1 and the Rat 2. It's pretty much the same length as the Ontario Rat Model 1, and that's a full-size knife. Spyderco PM2, Spyderco Para 3, Concept Goblin XL, Chris Reeve Umnumzon Tanto. The Tanto is very close in length. This one's a little bit shorter. The Microtech Sidral is also another good lengthwise size comparison. And here you have the Vero Engineering Axon frame lock. And lastly, we have the ZT0640. It's pretty close in length as well. Okay, nitpicks and complaints. I mean, there's not really many. Personally, I would rather see, I would have rather have the finer cut jimping up here. I think it just feels better, but aesthetically, I get it. It goes better with the frag pattern. It's the same width as the frag pattern, so it wasn't a deal breaker for me. I would have also loved to see it a little bit lighter, maybe an ounce shaved off, like 4.5 ounces would have been excellent. But like I said, 5.6 isn't unreasonable for me. I had no problems carrying it. And lastly, I talked about it earlier. The texture is the only thing that probably bugged me the most. The texture underneath the pocket clip, mainly because it was hard pulling it out of the pocket. Sometimes, depending on what kind of pants or shorts I was wearing, it would get caught up a little bit. So it'd have been really nice to see a little flat, smooth square underneath there to let it go in and out of the pocket nicely. Because other than that, it may become a pocket. Well, it will become a pocket shredder over time. But overall, valued. Do I think it's worth the $320 price tag? Absolutely. There's so much milling in this knife. Premium blade steel, good action, super fidgeter. I think it looks very nice. I like the lines on it. I love the frag pattern. Overall, I think it was an absolute home run. And like I said, I thought it was nice enough that I spent my hard-earned money on it as well. So if you want to get one of these and you don't want to miss out, you got to pick it up before, I think no later than the 17th. I think he said he's closing the pre-order. Now, whether he does another one of these, who knows? But definitely don't miss your chance, because I'm sure they'll go up on the secondary pretty quick. All right, guys and girls, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below. I will have a link down to his site where the pre-order is down below in the comments. So if you want it, go check it out. And I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.